So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 1 Point Safety Show with myself, Scott Hartley, and my glorious co-host, Scouse Andy. How are you, mate? You all right, buddy?
Good, man. Good. How are you doing? How's the holiday?
Good. It's going well. It's still hot, as you can probably see. I am a bit shiny from the aloe vera. The sun is still shining in here. It's about 27 degrees, and it is 8:15 at night, so still very, very hot. Getting up to about the mid-30s now. So, it's boiling season for me. So when you've got fair hair, ginger, and a fat belly, it's not ideal weather to be walking around. But yeah, it's all good, mate. It's all good. Another few days back home on Sunday. So, not too bad.
Great, man.
So we'll get into then a bit of news, I suppose, this week. There has been a fair bit of news this week. It's continuation of training camp, really, ramping up towards the start of the season. I mean, football's back tonight. There's the Hall of Fame game on tonight. I don't know if you're going to get a chance to watch that or give that a little bit of a watch. I'm not sure what time it actually starts, to be fair.
That game probably be horrible, man. Like, only the starters.
It won't be the starters, most likely. I mean, is it the Jets versus the Browns? Is that who it is tonight? I think it is, yeah. Jets versus Browns on that Hall of Fame game. So, not too...
playing, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not too great, to be honest with you. But we'll start with a bit of off-field news then. And, I mean, this goes into your sizzle. So we've got a special guest to announce the sizzle. So we'll hand over to Mike Tyson.
Go for sizzle, baby.
Hope everybody heard that, by the way, on the thing.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's
see
hope
what
so.
It goes. But yeah, I mean, obviously, for me, how much of an idiot have you got to be Jamin Davis right there? I mean, first-round pick. Hasn't really, endeared us to the fans because he doesn't really produce too much. And all he's been doing is producing fucking ticket after ticket, speeding, and now he's also part of the DeShazer Everett nightmare that happened. It's so horrible what happened to his missus. Doing ridiculous speeds. I think it was like 114 and a 65.
Yeah, so I've got it here for a bit of background. I mean, his first charge. He was charged with reckless driving, 89 and a 65 back on 19th of December 2021. It was reduced to an infraction and he paid a fine of $150. And this was obviously 4 days prior to the DeShazer Everett tragedy that happened. He was in the car in front, actually, he was in front of DeShazer Everett, and the one behind had Benjamin St. Juice in it. Obviously, this time round, it was 114 mile an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone on March the 28th, 2022. And that was just after 1 p.m. in the afternoon, Scouse. I mean, what are you doing?
Exactly. What is he doing? I mean, I understand a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh with the lads, but the thing is, though, you're multi-millionaires. You're worth millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be sensible. You can't be stupid like these guys are doing. You're bound to get caught. You're bound to get caught at that kind of speeds in such a slower area. So it must be a built-up area where he was.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Beamish and Finley talking about him. They were saying it's next to a school. It's 1 in the afternoon, dude. What are you doing?
It's just ridiculous, man. It's like absolute stupidity. You should have went to jail then.
I mean, it's funny.
I know they probably, he got his lawyers involved probably and appealed everything, and that's why it's taken like a year before getting to it now. But the thing is, it's like he should have done his time and just that's it, done. And I think he deserves jail. He shouldn't get out of it. In my mind.
No, I mean, it's funny, isn't it?
Everyone deserves it, but second time though in a row, it's like, nah, mate, no, it's just ridiculous, man. And he just got 4 days before.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
It's like, mate, don't you understand? You just got caught for speeding literally less than a week ago, and then you decide to go speeding down the motorway, you know what I mean?
Well, it was 4 days before the DeShazer Everett thing, but even so, you think when you watch that and you see that happening, you know what's going on, and you think to yourself then...
Ticket 4 days before for speeding.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And then he goes, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll just go even further. I'll just push the boat even more and go 114. Ridiculous, man. Absolute shit.
It is. I mean, Canada Mike's put a point up on this, and one of his questions was, should we terminate Jamin Davis' contract, or is it more boys will be boys? I mean, for me, it's going to be difficult to terminate his contract. I think the NFL is going to get involved here. I mean, he's not the only person within the NFL who's been done for speeding recently. There's been quite a few cases of obviously reckless driving and speeding. I actually think they really do need to get a grip of this and get a grip of it quite hard.
From the Virginia area as well. You've just gone down for about 10 days, I think, for speed.
I don't know, mate. I mean,
quite harsh on it as well. So
they are, yeah.
So he's definitely getting some jail time. It just depends how much. Now, obviously, the maximum is 12 months, which he's not going to get 12 months. We know that. He didn't injure anybody, even though really he's directly involved with that. The shade's a problem. But anyway, he didn't actually injure anybody, didn't cause anyone to die, anything like that. That's why he's been able to walk around freely for the past year. But the judge rejected 8 days because he offered 8 days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he offered 8 days, wasn't it?
8 days for you. If you let me offer the rest, and he's like, no. So obviously he's going to get, in my opinion, he's going to get at least 30.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I mean, it was dismissed. I mean, the case itself, I've read round through. Bear in mind, this is just a Washington Post report, so I can't really take it as 100%. That is what happened until you see what's written on the county court paper. But he got a $2,500 fine and 30 days suspended sentence. So if you've got that already suspended, then you've appealed that sentence and said, no, I'm appealing that, and you pleaded not guilty. I mean, what are you doing? You're doing 114 and you're pleading not guilty, and you've been caught.
With a gun and everything. It's just ridiculous, man. So
you might by the speed gun, not with a gun.
Yeah.
By the speed gun.
We talk about speed gun.
That's the only guns we have
in the UK, guys. It's the only guns we have.
Correct. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a mad one, because if he's tried to obviously plea bargain and say, look, I'll give you 8 days, and he's already had suspended for 30, and the judge just told him to ram it, basically, you're not getting away with that 8 days. What is he going to be in for, and how will this affect him moving forward into the season? I mean, he's not probably going to get to, likelihood is if he's got a good enough lawyer, he might get to pick when he does the time, which hopefully will be after the season, but he might not. He might not.
It's going to be coming up. It's going to be before the season. I think he's going to be missing, probably.
Do you think he misses games here?
I think he misses games because he won't be fit.
Wow.
He'll be available, but he won't be match fit because he'll lose all his match sharpness. So he's definitely going to be. He's definitely going to miss some time in the season, because I don't think these guys are going to leave it another year to do him. I just can't. I can't see it. And as you said before, if he's actually appealed it and said he's not guilty when he's being caught, really, he should get even longer, because you're wasting time.
Well, that's why it's going to trial. And I mean, the trial hearing was apparently today. I mean, we don't know exactly what time that was. He was training Tuesday and Wednesday. We're not sure whether he was at training today, obviously, with that hearing in place. The team has said there was...
I think he was actually at the courthouse today, wasn't he?
Yeah, team have said that they'll support him throughout this process.
He gets found guilty. Don't forget, man, this guy's meant to be a military guy. This is what Ron Rivera said at the start when we first got this guy. When we reached,
I know.
Because he was a reach. Let's face it, he was a
reach.
He
was, yeah.
Talented player, raw, but he's got, he had the attributes. Okay, fair enough. But it's like, no, he's a military guy. He's going to be solid in the community. He's going to be, he's going to be all, right down the middle. Obviously, he's not, is he? He's an idiot with behind the car wheel. So, it's yeah, man. I've got no sympathy. If he goes down for 60 days, 90 days, I've got no sympathy for him. So I'm like, mate, 2 in a row. It's not like 1. I think everyone deserves. You made 1 mistake, you pay. We're fine, whatever. Fine. But second time, mate, nah, you're just a fucking idiot now, and that's it.
Yeah, and when you think about it, really, it's 3 incidents, isn't it? If you include the Deshays Everett incident in there as well, you would think someone dying, especially when it's one of his teammates who's seen what's happened and what happened to him going through the trial. You would think I would give a shit at that point. You know what I mean? I'd be like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I need to kind of shape up, but I don't know I can't remember what car he drives. If you listen to JP's podcast, the Beltway football podcast, they were talking about, I think he drives like a Maserati or something like that. I mean, this kid's he's made $9 million. He's made $9 million in the space of 3 seasons, and has he really showed that?
If he's not available, I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks to find out what's happening with him. I think it's absolutely stupid. I think it's ridiculous of what he's done. As you said, I think everyone's entitled to have a second chance. But I think when you're on your 3rd chance already,
punishment, simple as that.
And I think the NFL will get involved here.
You mentioned 9 million in his past 2 years, whatever it is.
There you go. Yeah.
What's a £2.5 grand fine? That's like me dropping literally 1 pence or
It's like a tenner for us, isn't it? Not even that.
It's
You know what I mean?
1 pence for us,
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. I understand that's the standard fees because obviously normal speeders, normal people, £2.5 grand's a lot of money, But for him, it's nothing. So I think when these guys are in that kind of corner, should get hit properly. 100 grand fine, you know what I mean? Like that would really wake him up. £2.5 grand fine. That's like I'll just spend that on somebody's shoes last week. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that you would be like if you're a millionaire.
Yeah, no, it is crazy, and I mean the team have said they'll support him. I don't think we'll end up suspending him. I don't think we'll end up. There may be some sort of internal disciplinary hearing, but I also think the NFL will get severely involved here as well, and he could end up missing game time just through suspension through the NFL. I think because obviously, as I said before, he's not the only person who's been done for this over the off season. So it'll be interesting to see how they grip this moving forward.
The NFL stay out of this one because obviously we've had enough of them fuckers being Goodell being involved in our team.
I know. But just when you think it's getting onto the things that you'd like to see off the field, you think, the off the field drama's gone, and here we are again.
This is what annoys me about him. Is because, look, man, he knew this happened. This happened like a year, 18 months ago.
Yeah.
See what I mean? 18 months ago, this would have fan underneath. Because obviously Dan Snyder was the problem. So his thing would have went under the radar. Now, because he delayed it. Now it's at prime time when the fans are actually giving a shit again and coming back involved. And I was like, oh shit, now I'm the bad guy because I'm the only bad thing that's going on here now at the moment. He's really fucked himself, man. He really has.
Yeah. So anyway, on to other news. Really, there's been a bit of injury news. David Barder, the defensive tackle, who is on the international player pathway. I think this is actually his final season. I don't think he has a spot. We used to get a spot for an international player as an extra
outside.
An extra outside of the 53. I don't think he gets one this year. I think he's actually just a general player, as it's known. He's torn his tricep in both arms in practice on Wednesday, which is just crazy.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because obviously you mentioned it, obviously off air, that it's that machine where you push up, against
where you push forward,
push forward on the field. But I think he must have done that drill probably thousands of times, never torn his triceps. Then all of a sudden, it tears his triceps. You know what I mean? It's just
strange injury, very strange injury.
Both arms, madness. That really is.
So he's gone to IR, I believe, already.
He'd be out for the season, if not. That might be the last we see of him under the Washington team.
He might be the last we see of him, but anyway, he's been a serviceable guy. He's came in at spots during the season. He has played some snaps, but probably didn't work out the way you wanted him to work out. And at the end of the day, you're asking a guy who's never played this level of football, never played college football, nothing. You're a guy from Germany who's come in and decided, I'll try and give it a whirl. And he's done okay, he's done all right, but he's probably bottom end of the roster anyway. So if this is the last,
always been bottom of the roster.
Yeah. If this is the last time we see of him, best of luck to David. I hope he goes on and does well.
The thing is, you mentioned that it's that international pathway and it's that extra spot. Let's face it, if that wasn't available, he wouldn't have made the 53 anyway.
No chance. Well, it was 54, wasn't it? But yeah, he wouldn't have made it anyway, irrespective. So he was always a practice. He was always a practice squad guy, wasn't he? And then he maybe
he was kind of like on the embers of right at the end of the team, and just about making it sometimes back the squad again. One of those dudes that wasn't good enough to play every week, but then wasn't really bad enough to cut. Those type things. So yeah, we won't.
Yeah, that's it.
But hopefully he heals well and gets back into the game if he can.
I hope so. And the other injury we've had confirmed is that Sadiq Charles has a calf injury. He's dealing with a small left calf strain, is what it's been put down as. I mean, you've called it. You've called it the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
You can't malign this guy's health. That's the problem. And there's always lower limb injuries as well. By the way, with Sadiq, he's had a lot of calf problems before. Now I understand. If you're feeling it, you don't want to push through and force it in pre-season. Fair enough. But the thing is that when it comes to the game, the first game or second game, he's going to be out. And we've got, I mean, Chris Paul, who actually, by all means, yesterday had a really good day. Which is great. We need to see that. We need to see him really produce and stand out. Because let's face it, Sadiq Charles, he's just not going to be fit. Like, you can put him as starter all you want. He's just not going to be available. So
exactly.
And that's the unfortunate thing. He just can't stay healthy. So, I'm looking at Paul, but I need to be looking somewhere else as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think we'll come on to that a little bit in a little bit later on. I mean, so training camps carried on. Then scouts were into our 9th practice, I think, today. Pads are back on. This is like the 3rd day of pads, I think. Obviously, last week.
I think today is not a non-pad day.
Was it a non-pad day today? I couldn't remember what today was.
And the day off, no pads, and then back in tomorrow.
Back in, okay. That's how they're working it, is it? Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I know you're only allowed a certain few number of padded practices, aren't you? That's the thing.
Of the agreement, the collective bargaining agreement, or you want to call it, for the.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. From the NFLPA. I mean, it's 10,000 people there. The other day, like unbelievable. The weekend watching the practice, that you can see the difference between what it was last year and what it was this year. It's just created a massive buzz. The sales created this massive buzz. 10,000 people out there. I mean, apparently it was absolutely roasting. And fair play if you went to training camp, if any of our American friends are listening to this, or anyone who is out there at the moment and is attending training camp, fair play to you for going out and watching that, because that is ridiculously hot. To be sat in them stands for that long, but apparently it all went well. They had buses on, busing people from Dulles into the practice area.
3 buses for the fans to get over there, and Josh Harris straight away, making an effort. It's the small things that we.
Of course, it is.
You know what I mean? It's the small things. It is those things like getting a bus free. And air-conditioned buses as well, according to Deuce. Because Deuce said...
Yeah, I heard that, Deuce. Yeah, Deuce heard Deuce on the Burgundy zone. Just shout out to Deuce.
Little things, man. It's little things. And obviously the stands as well, and the bleachers and things you can sit down and actually enjoy watching them practice, I think that it's little things what makes a great sport.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's not rally captain and Chris Bryant just sat there in a couple of deck chairs as it was last year. You know what I mean? Like, go on, guys, woo.
Maybe a couple 100 people there, max, maybe last year.
Yeah, not even that. And I mean,
content creators probably. You know what I mean? Just trying to.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, we had even had national media yesterday. There, we had Kay Adams there, didn't we? Yeah, so I mean, shout out,
even though she always does the shreds normally.
Yeah, shout out to Josh Taylor. I hope you got your content there, buddy.
Yeah.
That's his queen. Yeah. That's his queen.
It's like, where were you, Josh? I thought we were going to meet and all this. Did you watch? Oh man, yeah. So Papa told him he wasn't there. I bet he's well.
He's gutted, but there you go. But yeah, I mean, the standouts so far. Then we're looking at it. We've got some standouts that stood out really, really well in training camp, and one of them is Diami Brown. Diami Brown's come on. We're hearing nothing but good things about Diami Brown. I did watch some breakdown of his throws. Adam Armstrong, obviously on his Believe in Commanders podcast, he broke down Diami Brown running across the red line that is on there. Against Emmanuel Forbes. He made it quite a decent catch at the end, but it was a bit, I don't know, if he'd have tracked the ball over his shoulders and then caught it, it was a walk-in touchdown, whereas he was probably about 10 yards out and he's turned his body to catch it and he's caught it like sideways on, still got his feet down, which looks like a great catch, but you wanted him to just take that position and just run, do you know what I mean? And be like, right, I've got that route, I can trust Sam Howell's arm and know where I'm going. But it seems to be a big connection back from Sam Howell to Diami Brown, which is great to see. They've obviously had that college connection, but it looks like it's there to stay.
Let's face it, Sam Howell's probably most favourite receiver. It probably is Diami Brown at this moment, only because of the connection over he's been with him for like 4 years, hasn't he? Something like that. So he definitely knows what he can do. But we all know that Diami Brown's a one-trick pony. He runs 9 routes. That's what he does. And he's over the top and he runs vertical routes. That's all he can do. Now, I know this season they've been looking at him and trying to do a lot more kind of, crosses and working across the middle of the field quite a lot. And he's getting better at that. But, I mean, when you watch all the videos, he still looks a little shaky on that cut. He's going down and then he cuts in. you've really he's great on the cut where he's going beyond you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's and then goes past you. He's good at that one, but he's not very good at kind of coming in on kind of the on the in routes. So he's improving that, but that's where his main focus has been over this preseason. Hopefully, he gets better with that going forward.
So some more standouts then have been Chase Young. Chase Young's been unbelievable. Apparently, since he's come back, we've seen obviously his workout videos and all of the socials going crazy. But from what I've seen, Chase Young has been, and what I've heard, he's back to his normal self, which is what we want to hear, really. You know,
we need to hear that. We need to hear that. You know, we've mentioned about doubts about him anyway, just because of the injuries and things. But I mean, if he's back to anything like, even his college days, we're going to be laughing this year.
We absolutely are. And then, sorry, mate, another standout is B-Rob. Brian Robinson's been standout. We're hearing a lot of him taking catches out in the backfield as a running back. He's getting into space. He's running more. Almost like that Atlanta touchdown where do you want to be at the end of a run from B-Rob at full speed? Because I tell you what, I ain't going to be a DB looking at that. You're going to get run over. Which is fantastic to see if he's out there. And to that end, Canada Mike's put a question in here around B-Rob, and he's basically said, Robinson seems to be on fire at the moment. Do you think he'll be a top 5 running back in the NFC this season?
NFC?
NFC, yeah, not the NFL as a whole. So I don't know how many in the NFC, who are outstanding, running backs. Christian McCaffrey, yeah.
Okay, yeah, McCaffrey.
Who else is there?
Normally say he might not even be there. Now he got cut from
Saquon.
Saquon. Yeah, I was Saquon. You know what I mean? Like he's just a better back. You know what I mean?
He is, yeah. Overall, but do you think I think he's got the potential to get to be a top 5?
But I wouldn't put that kind of pressure on him, though. I mean, let's face it. Last year he got shot, so twice in the leg, and he came back playing at. Even he said himself, came back at about 75-80%. He wasn't even like that. What he thought he could do, So this year you're going to see, obviously, I think a big upturn definitely, but it all depends really with him as well, because it isn't like the running game. The running games it's all a team game. If the defensive line can't create anything for him, he's going to be stuck. He's not going to create anything. Do you know what I mean? I understand the passes out wide and the shorts and all that, but the thing is that you've got Gibson for that. He's more adept at that. You can see the odd pass here and there, but most of those short screens are going to be for Gibson. So you're not going to see B-Rob doing too much of that, unless barring injury, of course, to Gibson. So for me, it's all about how good your offensive line is. Can they create something for him? Can they create some gaps for him, especially second level? Now I mentioned that so many times over the start when we first started this pod, that the offensive line was awful at creating gaps and creating lanes for the running backs. So and B-Rob had to run through 4 guys to get to 5 yards. So it's as long as the offensive line can be kind of average, then I can see B-Rob being a top 10 in the NFC, but I wouldn't say top 5. I think that's a bit much.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scouse. It's one of them, isn't it? I think he could be a top 5 guy, but it's going to be very difficult for him to be in that top 5 there. Other standouts this week have been Terry being Terry.
That's Terry.
Don't need to say anything. Don't need to say anything on there.
You know what I mean? So.
And then if we look at the backs, defensive backs, Benjamin St-Juste has been stood out, playing, and he's playing mostly in the slot, which is where they look like they want to play him. And then Forbes has been picking off passes again, and he run one back for a pick 6 the other day as well. So they're doing what they're doing. Forbes is the real deal apparently, from what I've heard.
He's got all the intangibles. It's just about kind of giving him some experience and playing against the big boys. Because let's face it, every receiver is fast. If you're not fast, you're an absolute body. You know what I mean? Absolute unit. That's the only guys you see in the NFL, isn't it? You know what I mean? Either lightning guys who like laser fast, or guys who are massive and like really well built, and big tall guys who aren't as fast but are huge that way. So they're more of an aerial threat. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can actually do. Of course, we're all in on him. Ron's all in on him, and and he's done a few picks, and he should do. Let's face it, the defense is ahead of the offense, which is understandable in training, especially when we're in a new system and we've got basically, you could call him a rookie quarterback. And the defense has been settled for quite some time, besides obviously Forbes and Martin. But the rest, and Barton's been playing really well in the training as well. So,
well, interesting enough, we talked about Jamin Davis before, but Barton's been taking all of this one snaps. So it looks like Jamin Davis is going to be the number 2 linebacker, which again,
well, I don't think he'd be playing. I think that's probably the reason why they're not putting him in with the ones, because I think they realize that he's going to be gone for, let's say a couple of months probably, which means he won't be available. So probably week 6, where he's even like healthy, or should I say, match sharp to be able to play. You know what I mean? So, because he's going to lose his sharpness no matter how much gym he hits, because he hit the gym and he hit the weight room in the.
Yeah, he's got the yard, and he exercise yards. Yeah,
he'll be doing his NFL drills though. Do you know what I mean? So he's going to be not sharp in that respect. So yeah, we'll have to see. But Barton has impressed, especially he's a tackling machine. I mean, he gets caught out.
Yeah,
a lot. He just gets caught out in coverage, but actually he is a good run stopper.
He's just a better Cole Holcomb, isn't he? That's what he is. And being honest, he's just a better Cole Holcomb. That is exactly what he is.
I think he's similar standard, but maybe slightly better. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, obviously he doesn't have a mullet as well, which is always a bonus.
Yeah, he's got shaved head. But one actual standout who's come out for the last couple of days and has done really, really well. And to that end, Christian Burt from UK HTTC blogs, fair play to him. He's just put a blog out. So if you want to go on Google and search, just put in UK HTTC, and you'll find his blogs. He's got one on the roster lowdown on the offensive line, which is really good, actually. If you get the chance to have a read of that, go and give Christian's blog a read. He's put a question about Mason Brooks. He said, is it another training camp legend or a legitimate offensive line find? Now, obviously, we know, and what we've heard, Juan Castillo was going mental the other day at a training camp saying how good he was. He pancaked the life out of F.A. Obada. Absolutely smashed our boy to bits. And then another rep
as well.
Yeah, he smashed Badarian Mathis, I was going to say, and another rep. He got beat by by Daron Payne. But I mean, come on, this is Daron Payne.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're going up against Badarian Mathis would be a solid starter for most teams. The difference is that we've got 2 elites at defensive tackle. So take on our guys. I mean, it's only going to make you better. But I mean, if you can hold your own, especially for a number, no, he wasn't drafted, was he? He was an undrafted guy, wasn't he?
No, he's undrafted free agent out of Ole Miss. Yeah,
he's only had 1 year playing as well in college.
That's right.
1 season, so he was obviously very raw.
And oddly enough, Scouse, he is a left guard as well. So, which we'll get onto. We'll get onto a little bit. He was playing right guard, but
right guard when just having Mathis off. Yeah. So
in college, I think he's played left tackle in college. So he's got a bit of versatility. Yeah, he's got a bit of versatility as well.
I mean, Ron said today on his presser, because he got asked about him, and he was just saying, he's done really well. He's obviously stood out to us a little bit, but also saying he's got a long way to go as well. So is he a find? Is he he could be a potential find, but obviously he's probably going to be. I think if the roster was done today, he'd probably be 3rd string guard.
Yeah, probably. But does he make the roster? It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be very tough. I think he makes a practice squad, absolutely. And he's one of them where you've got to hope that, he makes the practice squad, then he could elevate up and down depending on injuries and what's happening there. But I don't think we've had an absolute solid find where we're like, right, this kid is amazing, because I think you'd hear more of it. You know what I mean? You'd absolutely, people would be raving about the plays that he's getting. But
got to give the main guys the chances, haven't you? So you got to
give you have.
Paul the chance first before you're thinking about putting this lad in, because so he's going to get a lot lower sample size, isn't he? So
he is, and less reps, obviously, as well. So
that's normal, because in the day, this guy is 3rd string, maybe even no string. If you might even make the squad. So you got to give supposedly your first team and your second team guy the reps first, and if they are shite, and when he does get some reps and he produces, then obviously he starts going to pecking order. That works.
So we've had the good really, and we're not going to go on to the bad straight away. We've got a one in the middle, which is like I just call it hit and miss, and the hit and misses have been Sam Howell and Gates as well at centre. I've been hearing hit and miss things about Gates, some high snaps that are too high, some that he's just not practicing. He got into a fight with Cody Barton as well, which is the first fight of the camp. I mean, fair play if they're having knocking lumps out of each other, but apparently Eric Bieniemy had none of it, and it was over very, very quickly. But camp fights are camp fights. Do you know what I mean? They do happen. People.
That's just the competitive juices, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is.
Probably talking shit to each other. Barton probably played a good play beforehand, and Gates is not playing well. Probably pissed him off. You know what I mean?
Oh, apparently the chirping had been going on for a couple of days, where people are chirping, till eventually that's it. They just had enough. I mean, Gates is a veteran, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's not going to be happy.
People need to do that though sometimes to be on the razor sharp edge of their kind of best. Do you know what I mean? Like where they've got to be giving it large to somebody. Mouth like Sherman was like that, and
yeah, he was. Yeah,
the other dude we had, Carolina guy,
Swearinger.
No,
as well. He was like that, and so was Norman. Josh Norman was like that as well. Yeah.
So those guys always had to be doing that. If you told them not to do that, then you weren't the same player.
Yeah.
So maybe Barton's like that, and Gates. And I've heard Gates is quite an aggressive character naturally. So, you got to be careful there.
But I'm not too happy with the way that he's being portrayed. Obviously, with the high snaps and other bits that are going on.
I'm not happy with that. No, he needs to get that sorted. Otherwise, he will be going down the pecking order. Or
correct,
put him into left guard instead and say, "Look, mate, your snaps aren't good enough. Go over to left guard." And then you got Stromberg and you got Larson.
Yeah, they're the two. Well, maybe that's what they do. I don't know. And obviously, Sam Howell had a really good day today, had a really good day yesterday. Prior to that, not a great day. It's been very hit and miss. You're going to get that. He's going to get his lumps. You know what I mean? He's going to get looks where he's like, oh, I can feed this ball. I can put this into a window, and it doesn't work out. We're just going to have to deal with that.
What I've read is that, and what I've watched and things, is like he tends to get, when he gets tired, he gets lazier.
Yeah.
With his feet.
That's it.
And when he does that, that's when the ball is not as accurate, and then that's when he gets picked. So, it's when he's on point and he's thinking of his footwork and he's doing it properly, he looks pretty good. But don't forget though, don't forget he's taking on a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
With the new system and first time him being the leader. So if he's getting picked off or he's having good days and bad days, that's exactly what it should be like. It really should.
Yeah, it should be.
Even Tom Brady at prime should have a good and bad day against a really good defense.
Of course.
See what I mean?
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
So don't panic about it just yet. Let's see what he's like in the preseason games and how he goes into the first game. But
correct. One thing I'm not panicking about, Scouts, and the reason I'm not panicking is the balls are not hitting the dirt. Last year, balls were hitting the dirt from both Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz. It was as if they didn't have a clue. Now, balls are not hitting the dirt. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's a genuine competition for QB. I really don't think it's a genuine competition. But Jacoby Brissett's bringing him on, which is what we want to hear. He's being that good teammate, that loyal guy.
Coach as well as a player. So it's really, really useful from what I've seen.
I took your advice. I watched that advice. Took your advice. Watched that about De'Ami Brown's vlogs.
Oh, did you watch them? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. They're very good.
What Jacoby was doing, pretending to be like a cornerback and saying, "This is what you need to do." Just show them like what the quarterback should be looking at and what they're looking for and how to deliver the ball and where it should be going at that time, at that point. It's just little things like that, but makes a big difference,
It really does.
It's smart from Ron as well, because obviously everyone's going Sam Howell this, Sam Howell that, and then he always brings up, but don't forget Jacoby. Jacoby's doing a great job, and so he's just keeping Howell on his toes. You know what I mean? And it's really smart from Ron, really.
It is. So we'll get on to the poor then. There's only one real bit of poor, and that is the battle at left guard and the offensive line as a whole. I have been hearing horrible things about this offensive line. The whole of the right side got absolutely blasted yesterday in training camp, and you're thinking, hold on a minute, what's going on? I mean, I've heard Cosme's looking more comfortable at right guard, which is great. And he seems to be more comfortable in that position. But it's that left guard battle where we have a problem. I mean, Chris Paul is now taking all of the first team reps.
Are you saying that side got blasted, you say, or the left side?
Absolutely hammered yesterday. Right side got blasted. Okay. But I'm more concerned about the left side as well. I've heard, Charles Allen's getting pancaked by Chase Young. And I mean, as you said, we're going up against a top 5 defense, but you've got to play better. You've got to play better than that. We've got to have better performance from this offensive line.
Better players eventually going to get the better of you. It's simple as that. That's the point. It just depends how well you can hold up, and can you hold up long enough, and that's what it's about, really. We know the offensive line stinks. We know that. We know we've got like maybe 2 talented guys there, the whole lot. It's not like, this offense just needs to gel. No. It needs more overhaul, to be honest. But,
well, to that end, then Scouse, Jesse put in a question from the Bleeding Burgundy podcast. Thanks, Jesse. He said, with the offensive struggles that we've seen in camp so far, do you see any changes happening?
As in the offensive line or the offensive?
Yeah, just to the line, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there has to be. As you mentioned, you do have to play better. They do have to raise their game. And if they're not good enough, well, then they're not good enough. They shouldn't be in the squad. We need to get somebody else in who can.
Yeah, speaking as that someone else. Go on, you go, mate. You go.
It's very difficult, though. It's very difficult because obviously we haven't got any money left, really, so we can't go out there and get a big free agent. And then obviously you got some potential young guys that mentioned that Brooks and stuff like that. You might end up being good in a couple of years. But that's a couple of years. What about now? We need guys now. And if
Braden Daniels.
I mean, to say these guys aren't inspiring confidence of like, oh yeah, no. This is it. It's young. It's going to get its lumps. Not a good thing about Howell. We're talking about Howell like that. We're not talking like this offensive line like that. We're thinking, no, this offensive line's bad. At the end of the day, when you look at it, you look at the sacks last season. Wiley gave out 9 sacks last year, right? That's what I meant to. That was our offensive, our big free agent acquisition, right? So we got him. We got an injury-prone Cosme. Let's be honest, he's always injured in that team. You got
in a brand new position as well.
I mean, he's played guard a little bit, but yeah, he probably will. But and then you've got the centers. You got Nick Gates, who's obviously not used to snapping because the snapping is shocking. So, that's not great. Then you've got your left guard, who obviously Sadiq Charles, as we mentioned many times, the guy's too injury prone. You just cannot kind of rely on him to be there more than 1 or 2 games before he goes out injured again. That's just how he is. And Chris Paul, again, the unproven guy. You don't really know what he's about, really. I mean, he's got some talent, maybe, but is that going to be good enough to stop, Nick Bosa running at you? See what I mean? Like, no, it's not. He's going to run right through those guys like nothing. Kayvon Thibodeau coming at you. No, those guys are going to destroy these. And the problem is that then you've got Leno, who's you probably see the most senior guy and probably the best lineman we've got. He had a nightmare season last year, lost loads of confidence because he played alongside absolute dog shit Norwell. And then that's mad, man. I mean, it's that is a raw offensive line, man. It really is.
It is, and I mean, I've been saying this for weeks, and now people in the media are starting to pick up on it. There are veteran free agents who are out there. We do have a slight bit of money, but not a huge amount. But like Dalton Reisner went to visit the Vikings and he wasn't signed. So either he's wanting too much money.
Yeah, he wants too much money, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does want too much money.
No, he wanted a job. They surely would have offered him if he wasn't injured.
I mean, do you hang about then and wait until the 53? Till we get to cut downs.
I think that's where you're going to see Ron do his job. Because he did that with Leno as well. So I can definitely see him looking at left guard, for definite. After the 53, after the final cuts.
Yes, it's going to be mad because there's going to be
anything. We just don't know who's going to be available. We don't know.
Yeah, you've got no idea. You've got no idea, do you?
Just got to hope that some guy that falls, he gets cut for a reason.
I mean, you could look at it 2 ways, Scouts. You could go 2 ways here. You could have a genuine last minute cut, and it ends up as a John Bostic type player who you go, oh my God, what have we got? Or it turns out to be someone like a Charles Leno or even a John Ridgway, where we've done well out of it. Do you know what I mean? We've picked someone up on waivers and it's been okay.
Somebody's practice squad, that's another good call. Because
I know.
That's how we got Ridgway through Dallas's practice squad. So cheers for that, Dallas. But
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but
maybe
we might have to look at that because, at the end of the day, at the moment, it's not good enough. But don't forget, though, like we mentioned before, taking on the elite, probably the best defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, I would, position by position. Yeah,
I don't think any team is as strong as us in that position.
No, I don't think so.
You might
And I
have
mean,
rushes and stuff, but there's no actual better
in depth wise, yeah, and as a unit wise, yeah, I agree with you.
You know, Allen, Payne, Sweat, Young. If he's anything like, you know, before in college or was even the second half of in his first season, then we're on to a winner. You know,
yeah.
So that isn't a true elite defensive line. And so any offensive line's going to look bad against that.
So we'll move on to the last bit of that.
Players like we've got anyway. It's going to make it doubly worse. It's going to make it look even worse than what they actually are, maybe. So
the last bit of training camp really was Eric Bieniemy and how pissed off Eric Bieniemy is getting. I mean, you know, he's making the offense redo the huddle. He's making them get to the line of scrimmage quicker. Players are running to their next stations when they're doing drills. Obviously, formations are there. He's brought in a tennis ball machine, which was quite interesting. But a tennis ball machine you've got the jugs machine normally for footballs. Well, he's brought a tennis ball machine into fire at wide receivers and at tight ends and saying, get your fucking skills up to speed and go like that. And the other day when
catching tennis balls or
catching tennis balls.
Okay.
For hand-eye coordination. Do you know what I mean?
It makes sense, you know, because it's harder to catch a small ball compared to the NFL ball.
I know, it's mental. And then you look at it and you go, okay, that's cool. And I see what he's trying to do. But the way that he's drilling these players into saying, no, this is not acceptable. We won't, you know, we're not going to have this. Apparently, Alex Armour, who's the fullback, had a bit of a hissy fit because there was a TD that didn't come through. And he just literally went mental at him, called him out and said, we don't effing do this. This is not how we play. And just got him straight back into the huddle. And it was like, oh, okay. And then the fans in the sideline were like, no, you go and get him, dog. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but they've not seen that either. Whereas before it was very melodic, very walk-through orientated under Scott Turner. You know, it's, we'll move to the next play. It's fucking pacey.
He wasn't a coach. Let's face it, it wasn't a real coach. And the thing is, as well, with EB doesn't give a shit who you are. I mean, you see what he was
Yeah.
Hey, referees, get out the fucking way and all this, wasn't he?
Yeah, I know. He was calling referees out here, which is just like, what?
He doesn't get no one's safe from his bark. You know what I mean? So, you know, don't take it personally. You just got to do what he expects from you, and you know it will be hard. And as you mentioned, tough on players and players, you know, coached hard, or as they call it.
You know, yeah, he is coaching them hard, and I mean,
if you can't take that, you want to ask for a trade because all he's going to do is just going to rip you and grill you if you can't handle it. If you're going to lose confidence from that kind of coaching, because some people do, you know, some people need the arm around the shoulder. You know what I mean? And if because obviously Bieniemy doesn't come across like that kind of guy that he'll do that for the odd guy here and there. He is just all bark, you know. So if you're going to lose confidence from it, you better just say to one now and say, look, just trade me because I can't deal with this kind of level of coaching.
But he's coaching them hard, which is what we want to see. And the fitter the team is, obviously, the better they're going to perform later down the road, which is what we want to see. We've also seen from the defense, Jack Del Rio doing his little bit of thing around formations. We've had the 5-1-5 out there for a lot of the plays. I mean, when you think of that 5-1-5, I mean, I'm not too bothered about the backfield, but them five up front, when you talked about it before, when you add Phil Mathis into that as well, and then you're looking at the depth behind that in John Ridgeway. Yeah, this is a serious front. This is a serious front, I think.
Nice, it's really nice, and we just got to utilize it more. We've got to get more from the edge. That's the key.
Absolutely.
Your pressure, we're lights out. You know what I mean? But it's got to be down to Sweat and Young. If they can produce, then we're on to a winner. But you know, see how it goes.
So we'll get into fan questions and Scouts to finish us off here, and we've got quite a few. So thank you everyone who's gone out there and put in fan questions. Really appreciate it. Tim Meek, Indie Skins fan from last week. We missed his question. Obviously, we were recording while it was submitted. So thanks, Tim. Really appreciate you holding on for this one. He says, what happens first? Washington wins the Super Bowl or London gets an NFL team?
I'm probably going to say London gets a team before we win.
Really? Oh,
I don't think it's that far away, you know. I don't think it's that far away for a London team. I think the Jags going to be going there. I think that'll be done in the next kind of 3 years, and I don't think we're going to win.
Wow,
really do. 3 to 4 years, I reckon they'll be there permanently.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to take us 3 to 5 years, I would say, to get,
Depends what. It all depends what we do this season, as in like what Josh
correct.
do. Because if Josh is, look, man, well, sorry, Ron, no, you didn't produce enough, you're fired. EB goes, everything else, we just tear it all up. But then the whole team's on rebuild again, the whole squad. So that takes 4 years, 3 to 4 years, just to get the squad back to what the new coach wants to be. So, yeah, man, it's
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I think we're quite a way away from logistically getting a London team. That's why I think the logistics of it all is.
I don't think so, because the best way of doing it would be play 8 home games in a row and play 8 away games and be based in the US for that 8 games. So say you start off. So obviously the better weather for England would be the start. So September, So play your first 8 games, then bang, all back to back home. Okay. Wrong, it's brutal. So the away one's going to be brutal, but the thing is, though, it could work. You could do it.
Yeah, you can have a bye week after that, and then you then straight into the away games. Yeah,
and you could be based back in Jacksonville, or even
there we go. Yeah,
central. Even move a little more central. If you're based there for 2 months and just fly from there, so you haven't got to go ridiculous distances to say you've got to play Seattle or something like that.
But I do think it's going to be the Jags is the nearest franchise that we've got. Obviously, they're already playing at least 4 games here. 100%. Well, they're playing 4 games here. So, Shad Khan, who's in charge of them, obviously owns Fulham Football Club. He owns Wembley. You know what I mean? Well, most of Wembley anyway. So, yeah, he's got his hands in a lot of pies over here in the UK already. And if it's going to be any franchise, it's going to be Jacksonville. I mean, if you think about the franchise that they've got, the home attendances that they're getting aren't the highest. If you think away from us, we had what I think was the lowest attendances last year in the NFL.
Reason for us in Jacksonville, they just don't have the fan base.
Correct.
We have the fan base. We just decided to stay away, just to get rid of Jan Snyder. And that's what I say. I reckon from now on, you'll start seeing us becoming like nearly sold out every game.
Agreed.
70,000 now, is it?
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, 70,000.
Because obviously we weren't getting any people in, but 70,000 easy, and now we'll get that regularly.
So Tim Towner, he DM'd me. Thanks, Tim, for your questions. He says project the offensive group breakdown of the final 53. Now he's saying he reckons it will be 25 players for the defense and 3 for the specialists, obviously, that are already taken up. Yeah. How do you think it plays out? Now, we're not asking for every single player. We're just looking at how many on the O-line, how many QBs, how many running backs, that sort of thing, which is a tough one, really.
It is tough because there's always going to be 1 or 2 kind of shocks. There always is, isn't there? So there's always going to be an element of that, especially, if you're looking at the defensive side and you look at the linebacker situation, that could be anybody, it really could literally be just 2 guys. Or 3 max from the team on its own. That's it. Because you only play 2 or 1. That's even.
Yeah. So I think he said he reckons it'll be defensive line 11, linebackers 3, DBs 11, which I don't really disagree with him. I think that's a good call. But who's the 3 linebackers? Are you looking at Kaliki Hudson, Jamin Davis, and Barton? Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah.
Depending if obviously Davis is not. Or isn't available, whatever it is.
So I think his defensive setup is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I think you could be right with that because obviously you need normally you need a lot of depth on the line, you need a lot of depth in the DB area because these guys get injured regularly. It's just an unfortunate part of the game. Injuries will happen. And we've also got a lot. So we've got some decent depth, man.
In the defense, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
defense is no joke.
Obada, KJ Henry, Casey Toohill.
You've got the fringe guys you're talking about. They're the fringe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Never mind the guys you haven't even mentioned. The Paynes, the
James Smith-Williams, Payne, Allen, Sweat, Chase Young. I mean, I'm already at 9 there. Yeah. Ridgeway, Mathis. That's 10. That's 11 already. So there's people like your Ben Potatoes. And they ain't making it. They ain't making it. But that's probably your 11 right there, I would say. And we've just named them.
You need at least 2 each side.
And then DBs, safeties wise, Cam Curl, Forrest.
And then your two safeties, and then their backups, you need 4 there minimum. So you're looking at 10 to 11. You're going to need there as
11
well.
again, yeah, I reckon so.
I
Again, I
reckon. Right, yeah, I reckon it's good call.
So I reckon he's spot on there with 11, 3, and 11. For the offense, very difficult to pick because the offensive line is where the problem is. I mean, he's gone 10 on the offensive line. I'd probably go 9. And then maybe either you add
11, maybe because of how bad they are. Do you know what I mean? You just don't know.
2 QBs. That is what he's gone at. But do we get a third QB? I don't. Is that like a freebie? I don't know how that works.
No, I don't think
because I think you can dress a third QB on game day, can't you? Is what the rules changed, I think, because of the San Francisco situation with Brock Purdy. Oh, really? I think I think there's a rule. So I think you can now dress 3 QBs, but I don't know if that means that you have to make another player inactive for the day. I don't know exactly how that's going to work.
It was always. I mean, you could have 3 dressed up, but they need to be in the active roster.
Yeah, but I think they have to be on the active roster. Absolutely.
You can't have Jake Fromm if he's not on the active roster. You can't just stick him on and dress him.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's like if it is going to be 2, then it'll be 2. And then obviously practice squad guy, which would be Fromm.
So yeah.
And then you go. Okay, then when those guys goes down, then obviously Fromm gets promoted up to back up. So
see, the reason I went 9 linemen is because I think that you're going to keep 4 tight ends. So I don't think you keep 3. I think you keep 4. So the 4 you're looking at Hodges, Logan Thomas, you're looking at Cole Turner and Bates is your 4, and I think they will stay, all 4 of them. Yeah, I think 7 wide receivers is bang on. I mean, you could go the other way. You could go 3 tight ends and 8 wide receivers, or you could go 10 linemen. It's really tough, isn't it? It's really tough.
Yeah, don't forget though, you've got 3 centers, 3 starting centers. You're not going to leave those guys out of 53. You're just not going to do that. So you're going to have 3 centers there. So you're going to have Gates, you're going to have Stromberg, and you're going to have Larson. Those guys are going to be on the roster. So there's 3 dudes. That's just one position. Never mind.
Got 7 left.
Yeah. So
then if you take the 7 left, you're going to go.
I think there's 7
all.
left.
So you're going to go Paul, Sadiq Charles, Cosme, Cornelius Lucas, Wiley. That's it. We're already over it. So someone's not made. I mean, no, hang on. There's 2, and then there's 2 more. Braden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a guy that doesn't make it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
I
mean, funny enough, we've got Andre Jones there, who's our late 7th round draft pick. I honestly don't think he makes the 53. It'll be interesting to do. I'll tell you what we'll do with this one, Tim. This is such a good question. I think it needs its own segment, this. I think we'll probably need to talk about this a little bit further as we get towards the end of training camp, maybe after the first game on pre-season, or even after the scrimmages with Baltimore. Maybe that's where we get down the line with that one. But let's park that question, Scouts, and let's have a good look at it in future. I think
the hardest one to choose from the. I think
100%.
I think it's just the. I just think it's the offense that can be a bit of a challenge there.
So the Pod 5, Kyle Ronek, he's put in a question for us. Cheers, Kyle. Really appreciate you putting it in your recording as well. So if you get the chance, go and listen to the Burgundy Zone on YouTube. A great show. Always been good to us. So both of us, that is, as well. So and if you're not in their Discord chat server, talk to Kyle on Twitter and he'll let you join the Discord, which is well worth doing. Lot goes on in there. So the Podfather asks, what is more likely to produce a winning season for Washington this year? Is it Chase Young having 10 plus sacks, or is it Charles Leno having a Pro Bowl season?
For me, it's got to be the position of weakness. So for me, it's got to be Charles Leno. If Charles Leno produces at a Pro Bowl level, that's going to be. I mean, that would be like just absolute gold dust. That really would be gold. I mean, because obviously with Chase, let's face it, we're used to Chase not doing much. Does that make sense? We're kind of used to Chase Young not really producing too much. So our defense is that good. You mentioned the strength and depth and all the rest of it previously. The defense is just. I think we'll be able to kind of handle that a lot better than if Charles Leno was dog shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. I think
so important to be able to Howell standing upright.
Agreed completely. I think our success, is going to be indicated by this offensive line. Now, you and me have both sat here on this pod today, and we both spoke about it there from Jesse's question. If you look at the questions that we're getting in here, people are concerned about this offensive line. It's quite obvious that they're feeling exactly the same way we are.
But you've also got to just take some of it with a pinch of salt, just purely because of how good the D-line is going up against. So just bear that in mind as well, that it's going to look massive. It's going to look night and day but most teams don't have a D-line like ours. So that might actually, we might be thinking that the offensive line is worse than it actually is. Do you know what I mean? So just kind of, that's why I say park it up for a little bit for now, just to see what we can see on the field first in games, as in like preseason, see what the first team look like when they're on there, those type of things, and then go from there. But yeah, man, I mean that would be goalless if we can get Leno with a Pro Bowl season like type play.
100% agree with you. Leno with a Pro Bowl season for me as well. Great question though, Carl. Really appreciate that. So moving on, Canada Mike has asked us about 100 questions as he normally does. Thanks, Mike. Really, really appreciate it. Honestly, keep this podcast rolling. So after you've had one hell of a game and your great day, one of the greatest days of our life, when we're at opening day, when we win 42-10 against Arizona, will you be able to resist a return? And he says possibly the Dolphins, week 13.
I wonder why he's picked that one. Was he going to that game?
Yeah, I think he is going to that game.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's all about the cash. To be fair, I mean, if I had the money, man,
it's hard work, man.
I'd go every week. If I had the money and fly myself out there every week. But so that'd be down to money. But never say never. But obviously, let's win some sort of competition or some sort of lottery, then it's probably unlikely. But you never know. You never know, mate.
So he's also said, will you bring back the greatest cheerleaders of all time? Now they're unlikely to need bodyguards. Wow. I mean, for me, I've never been interested in cheerleaders. Maybe it's a British thing because we don't have cheerleaders at sporting events. It's just not a thing over here. So I've never really been interested in it. I don't really understand the need for cheerleaders to pump the crowd up. We've obviously normally got like a decent DJ or a PA system that will do that will pump it up.
Let's face it, it depends how woke you are or not.
Well, we've got a dance troupe, haven't we, already now? So
you made that more inclusive, so included blokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, end of the day, the cheerleaders, no disrespect. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are good at what they do. They're great dancers. They are athletes in their own right. They really are. Really fit ladies. Not like in looks.
I know what you mean. as in fitness. Yeah.
And obviously, they've unfortunately, I've always been there to be looked at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
really have. And it just depends how you want to play it. I mean, if you want to go back to the old way, if you're not as woke as others, then you might go, yeah, bring back the cheerleaders. There's no harm in that. The cheerleaders obviously want the job. They obviously want to do that. You just don't want to get harassed every time they go around the place, and that's totally understandable, And if Josh comes to that, I'd be happy either way, really. If it stays the way it is, or goes back to the cheerleaders only. It doesn't really hurt me either way. Kind of like, yeah, great if they're there, great if they're not, So, but from their point of view, I want them to have if they want to do that and that's their goal and their dream and their job and all the rest of it, then I'd like them to be back involved. You know what I mean? But it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a nothing burger for me. I've never been interested in it. I mean, I understand why I understand why you said what you said there, and I completely agree with you. But yeah, it's not a thing for me. Just stick to what we've got now. I'm quite comfortable with it. If you think you need a bit of hyping up, then fine. Maybe you just need 10,000 English football fans to come in and start chanting songs. Maybe that's what it is.
Bring them in. Bring some.
Yeah.
Factory involved. Yeah. Get some of that.
No, I don't think so.
Green Street, they might know that one better than the Football Factory.
Maybe, yeah. If the O-line can protect him, how many TDs can Sam Howell throw this season? And he's put 34 ? Now, this relates back to your question, I believe, that you asked the Burgundy Zone last week. You said, is this the season we go over Kirk's 29? Do we get to a 30?
Yeah, and I think I'm expecting to be about around that area. I mean, not 34. I think that might be a little bit too much, but I do think the 30 mark is achievable. I do think it's achievable if he can be protected. Just decently. And I'm talking passing touchdowns there. I'm not talking rushing TDs as well.
No, passing.
Yeah, so I think that's his ceiling, really. I think that 30 mark, 32 max would probably be the most you probably ever see Sam Howell throw in a season, to be honest. But you probably get a few with his feet as well. He likes to lay the wood, so I could see him get a few rushing TDs too.
I would go 25 is where I think he's going to end up, thereabouts.
Depends on protection, because the receivers are that good, they'll get open. If you get enough protection, he's got enough time, you'll find them. So it's just it's all on that O-line, man. It's all on the O-line.
It is all on the O-line. He's also asked here, has Scout secretly gone to watch the Barbie movie?
Technically, I have watched it, mate. And do you know what? I didn't actually like it at all, to be fair.
Have you actually watched it, Jen? Wow.
I didn't go to cinema for it, though. You know what I mean? Kind of a, not going to say.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's okay, but yeah,
empowerment and stuff like that, and feminism. So it wasn't really. It's very political based, isn't it, mate? And serious, really political. So I'm kind of I'm out on that type. I mean, I like politics in general, but yeah, stay away from it, mate. I didn't rate it; it was awful, to be fair. And it was obviously very political as well. So nah, not for me. But yes, you're right, Mike. I did watch it. So.
If money was no object, RFK, FedEx Field, or a brand new stadium?
Well, I think it's got to be a bit of both there. It's got to be a brand new stadium on the RFK side. For me,
Agreed.
That's what I'd be wanting. There's no point in trying to rebuild the RFK Stadium itself, because it's absolutely. I mean, we went there last year and it was just in bits. It genuinely was. You are better off to turn it down, starting again. But yeah, I mean, that's my goal. That's my goal there. If they can get that to happen, new stadium, RFK. But you do have to make the infrastructure a lot better as well around the area, because the roads, it's pretty poor. You think FedEx is bad getting in and out in the cars. DC, RFK was really bad. So
it was really bad, right?
I know it's got a metro, which obviously helps, but if you want to go there by car, it's a nightmare. So, you got to create more roads. So it's going to be a massive building lot. That's why it's going to take years. Do you know what I mean? Not just the stadium, but you got to build more roads. You got to build, more bridges, whatever. That's because it is close to the Potomac right next to it.
Yeah.
River. So they've got to go across, more bridges and all the rest. So those things take a lot of time and obviously a lot of cost. So for me, it's it's got to be that. And for me, anywhere else just doesn't cut it. Do you know what I mean? Like now we've got the team back from Dan. It has to be back in DC. Do you know what I mean? It feels to me
it's a spiritual home, and it has to be there.
It has to be back in DC. I understand, Maryland, there's National Harbor and all these other places that might be a really good place for it. But the thing is, where the glory days was at RFK in Washington. The name's Washington as well. So for me, it's just get us back there, man. Just do whatever you can to do it, Josh. Just do whatever you can. Do everything. Pull out all the stops.
Agreed. So last question from Canada Mike. He's put, are me, as in myself, and Scouse inviting Prime Minister Burrows on the pod, or do we hate him? Now, obviously, I have responded to
streams there, Mike.
I know, yeah, threw us under the bus big time, didn't you? Cheers for that, Canada, Mike. But no, in all seriousness, Burrows started he put the seed out there for us to start this pod together. He said, "Look, guys, you guys need to do that." Obviously, we've had advice and guidance from other podcasters like Kyle, like Freddie as well, and Jesse and John and Keith and the likes, and everybody else who's been involved in it. And we've loved this journey that we've been on. We're not going anywhere. I do want to shout out while we're here, obviously Andy and Freddie and yourself through the Bunker podcast, which has come to an end. Obviously, we appreciate and understand that life gets in the way at times. Andy's building a brand with his wrestling stuff, which we completely understand. He's done small town bits and bobs going on. He has said he will appear on our show whenever he's got 2 minutes. And Freddie's the same, man. Freddie's got kids, do you know what I mean? And he's got a life, so
a lot of things on. He's working ridiculous hours as well,
Yeah.
And it's just, obviously he's got very little family time, so and it's hard for us to get together.
It's time zones as well, mate. It doesn't help, does it? You know what I mean?
And obviously, sometimes we have guests and can only do certain days, and then we change our schedule to fit, and it just becomes too difficult, and because there's 3 people, to try to mash together, and it's very difficult to get us all there at once. So,
but no, we don't hate anybody. That's absolute fact.
No, I mean, I think we're going to do one last podcast, though. We are in the next few weeks, though, with the
nice,
just as a farewell kind of one, but again, we don't know when that's going to be because obviously, again, as mentioned before about but obviously, we'll definitely get one out there in the next couple of weeks or so, 2-3 weeks, something like that. Just a farewell one for the fans, really. But yeah, what are you going to say there, mate?
I was just going to say we've got to spend 8 hours on a plane each way with Burrows, and then 4 days in a bloody accommodation with him. So yeah, we're certainly not hating anybody.
Always welcome on the show.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Never a problem.
And Freddie, we're going to meet Freddie for the first time. He's obviously with us in at week 1 in the stadium. He's got our tickets actually, so
better show up now.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it'll be interesting. So we're looking forward to seeing Freddie. But yeah, it's a shame the bunker's obviously gone. I want everybody that's listened to that, fair play.
Lightly,
I know.
For a while, I mean, as you know, and the bunker fans know, we've not done too many shows recently over the past couple of months. Really, maybe like 1 or 2 here and there. It's just logistics of it all, mate. It's just very difficult.
Fair enough.
Darren, I enjoy being on there, talking to those two. I've loved working with them. It's just things happen. It's not just myself; it's all 3 of us. You mentioned Bo's, what he's doing, and Freddie, and these things happen.
They do indeed. Unfortunately, Darren Hafley's asked, "Will Canada might run out of questions before the start of the season?"
Doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it, does it? He keeps piling them in. Top man. And T-Mac, he's asked on Twitter. He is listening to the pod.
He hasn't been. I've been digging him out recently.
You have. Leave him alone, Scouts. Leave him alone.
Isn't he listening in?
Bully. Nice. He's come out and he said, "What do you want to see from the joint practices with the Ravens?"
Well, I want to see physicality. That's what I want to see. I want to see us go out there, play 100%, and just mow these fuckers down. Simple as that. I want to go in there and go, offensive line just dominates their defensive line, and then we'll be all thinking, shit, maybe we do have an okay offensive line. Just cross fingers, touch wood, all the rest of it. But that's what I want to see. I want to see us light them up. That's what I want to see. I don't want it to be close. I don't want it to be a good day for us and a bad day the next day. I just want to go out there and just show and just dominate, and that's what I want to see. Then that'll tell me that we're definitely on the right track because Baltimore, no joke. They're always a playoff team. Do you know what I mean? So if we can go into their backyard and start dominating, happy days, man. That'll put us in a great spot before we start the season.
Agreed completely with you. So my wife Karen has said, who would you support if it was not the Redskins? And yes, she did say the R word.
What do you mean? No, if there was no Redskins ever?
No, if you weren't a Washington supporter, who do you think you would support in the NFL, or do you not think you'd be an NFL fan?
I think I would, but obviously, as you know, my story, I've been brought up with it from my brother. So my brother's older than me, so I've been brought up that way. But if I think that wasn't there, it'd probably take me a lot longer to get involved. I think you're looking at probably maybe 10 years, maybe only of kind of fandom. And who were the best teams then? Who were the best teams 10 years ago? Because let's face it, if you've got no affinity to a team or an area, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pick the team's good, aren't you? Or
so what are you doing? The Patriots?
You might love the owner or the coach or whatever. So being honest, I probably would end up being a Pats fan, and I'd rather thinking about that. I'd rather slit my own wrist, to be fair, rather than being a Pats fan, and can't stand them fools. But again, I probably would have picked them because they were the creme de la creme around that time frame. So
for me, it's Green Bay. I'd probably be a Green Bay Packers fan purely and simply because most of my mates were Green Bay fans. So I probably would have had an influence from them at the time. I I'll be honest with you, I did watch them, not watch them as in, oh, I'm watching them growing up, like, oh yeah, they were amazing. But I did watch Green Bay's highlights, that sort of thing, until it got to the stage where I didn't have a team to pin my colours to the mask. But again, it's similar because Green Bay were a decent side 10 years ago. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at, isn't it? You know what I mean? Especially with my fandom, that's where I am anyway.
You had the Prime Rodgers then.
Prime Rodgers days, yeah.
Around that time, so
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, man, that they would have been a good team to root for at that time frame, and I think that was what it would be. But being that I've gone up with it from my first thoughts was actually the Super Bowl.
Wow, yeah,
that's my very first thoughts. But I was so young, I was just getting in, just watching the game with my brother. That's how I started off with. I think I was seeing him going, oh, this is this is the Super Bowl, this is the creme de la creme game, this is the, all these, you obviously don't really understand what's going on. You're like, oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah, and then, you know what I mean?
It's all downhill from there, Scout, isn't it?
It's up and downhill, yeah, so hopefully we're on the way back up now. We'll finally hit the horrible peak of the horribleness. Hopefully now we're going to be on the way up, but yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I think, fair, I mean, when I'm thinking about these things, I probably wouldn't even be a fan. I couldn't see myself supporting somebody else, but obviously, you just don't know, do you, when you first start off?
You don't. Yeah, you've got no idea.
No affinity or no loyalty to someone or something, then you just pick some random, wouldn't you? Let's face it.
Absolutely. Next question then from Karen is Trevor Lawrence. She says, on a 1 to 10, how good is his hair? It's a woman question, isn't it? But to be honest with you, I love his hair. I think, when you look at him, he looks like a pony.
Long, isn't it? So I'd probably give him a good 9 out of 10 there.
Yeah, it's got a solid 8.
Shoulders. He needs to get the advertisements going with his hair. Does he do any advertisements?
I'm not sure, mate, but that would be a classic. That would be a good advertisement.
But yeah, man, he definitely should have some sort of hair product advertisement. Anyway,
the last question she's got then is says top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. What's your list?
The top 5 in a row.
Yeah,
it's a list of one.
Currently, who's your top 5?
Mahomes.
Yep.
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts. And
it's tough, isn't it? Very tough.
Probably for talent-wise, probably Herbert.
Good shout. I was going to go where you're going to go Herbert, because for me, and I would say my top 5 now would be pretty similar. Mahomes 1, 2, probably Joe Burrow, I would say, over Allen. Allen's possibly 3rd on my list. Aaron Rodgers probably got to be in there, just now double back-to-back MVP. Still don't know what he's going to do on the Jets, do you? But still up there.
I know, you know what I mean? So,
doesn't matter, mate. Tom Brady was still the GOAT. You would always probably have him in your top 5. And then I'd say Jalen Hurts is probably there.
Tom Brady, and if he was playing this season, I wouldn't have Tom Brady in the top 5.
No?
No, because he's not that good.
Wow.
No, give me maybe a Tom Brady from maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. Yeah, okay. But
I think that 5th place is really difficult because you could have maybe 2. You could probably have 2 or 3 quarterbacks there. I mean, Trevor Lawrence right up there. Is he better than Herbert?
I don't think so.
Is he better than Herbert?
The things with Herbert, I was like, he's more like he's like a fancier Kirk Cousins, isn't he? Because he
is.
You know what I mean? Loads of yards, loads of touchdown. Plays hurt all the time, but he does. He always gets hurt. I mean, he's very talented, but again, I went off talent for the 5th one.
Yeah.
But okay. you could go another way route. You could go another route. You could go as you mentioned. I mean, I think it's a bit high for Lawrence personally, but
I think if he takes in
quarterbacks,
Mm.
Maybe if Russell Wilson comes back into his
Deshaun Watson.
So those things could happen. But again, from today, they will be my 5.
Cool. Well, that's us then. That's us done for another week. Next week is going to be very interesting. We've got the NFC East roundtable. We've got UK Giants fan, UK Commanders fans, obviously, as us. We've got UK Cowboys fans, and we've got UK Eagles fans as well. So it should be the whole of us represented. We have reached out to them all. They've all kind of agreed and said, "Yeah, we're ready, raring to go." They've had a month's notice, so they better show up. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen next week, where it'll be a bit more of a piss-takey episode, where we'll be taking the piss out of each other's franchises and hopefully looking at what we've done in the off-season, in the draft, and into training camp as well. So it should be a really good episode. But yeah, thanks for your time again, mate. Appreciate you being on with me, and thanks for chopping it up. And we will see you again next week.
Bye.